Let me keep reading a little bit from the AP story. People south of the border would be astonished to think that this is the type of scandal that they have in Canada, said Eddie Goldenberg, a former advisor to former PM Jean Chrétien. Now, most Canadians would know that Chrétien was a Liberal, like Trudeau is, so Eddie Goldenberg is just defending his lifelong party. It's not really surprising, but few Americans would know that. Remember, this story was written for Americans, the thousands of newspapers that pick up AP wire copy. So the first person they quote defending the Liberals is a lifelong Liberal, but they don't mention that he's a Liberal. Why? Why not? Because they know it would take away from his credibility, because they know it would show his bias. Goldenberg actually says something amazing. He says, there is a political correctness here. Nobody wants to go after an Indigenous woman minister. It's become politically incorrect to question the former minister. Holy moly! So the Liberals play the race card when making appointments. They play the gender card.
I understand one of the priorities for you was to have a cabinet that was gender balanced. Why was that so important to you?
Because it's 2015.
Yeah, right on. But when an Aboriginal woman criticizes Trudeau for being corrupt, well, she only got away with that because she's an Aboriginal woman. That's an incredible thing to say for a Liberal. It sort of shows their whole identity politics game is a cynical ploy, and that at the end of the day, they don't really listen to anything women or minorities say. It's just their gender and race that they care about is window dressing. There was nothing female or Aboriginal about Jody Wilson-Raybould's decision to block Trudeau's interference in the SNC-Lavalin prosecution. Her race or her sex were irrelevant to that. Here's some more from the story. They quote a professor named Robert Bothwell saying, "It's a pseudo-scandal. It's crap. What the hell? You were doing business in Libya and you were not bribing?" said Robert Bothwell. Hang on, didn't this same story a few paragraphs earlier say there was no crime, no financial scandal, nothing? And now they're quoting a guy saying, all right, fine, they paid $48 million in bribes. Sure, but you know, that's how it's done over there. Stop being so small time. Oh, and if you thought Goldenberg's racial critique of Jody Wilson-Raybould was weird, get this. The director of public prosecutions is also nuts, and so is Wilson-Raybould. These people are delusional. Delusional? It's against the law to bribe, to be corrupt, to corrupt a public procurement project, either in Canada or in Libya. It's illegal, and it's against the law to interfere in a prosecution of such corruption. That's illegal. But the Associated Press has found another old Liberal to call Jody Wilson-Raybould, and the head of public prosecution, who also happens to be a woman, by the way, to call them nuts and delusional. Maybe they're hysterical. He left that word out. Who is this weirdo? Bothwell. Look at him. Who is this weirdo calling everyone else weird? I'd actually never heard of him, but I had a hunch. I thought, if you're trying to get this guy, well, I typed in his name to the big online database of Liberal Party donors, and would you look at that? He is a year after year multi-$1,000 Liberal donor, if you add it all up. Funny how that wasn't disclosed in this story. Remember what Jody Wilson-Raybould said about liars in the media, running errands for the Prime Minister?
He was like, quote, "If Jody is nervous, we would, of course, line up all kinds of people to write op-eds saying that what she is doing is proper," end quote.
Yeah, I guess we've found one of those shills for Trudeau, Rob Gillies and the Associated Press. Look, they're liars. They are a fake news factory. They mislead. They omit key facts. They spin. And I bet that 99% of Americans who read this story simply don't know any better. I mean, if you read an AP story from Greece or from India or from Thailand, you would take it at face value, wouldn't you? How wouldn't you? But because we're from Canada and we've been paying close attention to the story for weeks, we can see the facile lies that they're telling Americans. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day I do a video monologue and then I interview an interesting guest. And then I end by reading my hate mail, but you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.